Welcome to Backstage with Richard Ridge. SAG-AFTRA Foundation and Broadway World continue their filmed Conversation Q&A series, which celebrates the vibrant theater community here in New York City. This event, which is coming from the Robin Williams Center, is a special conversation with an internationally known star who works on stage, screen, and television. And you all know him as the suave Neil Caffrey on the hit television series White Collar, and from his award-winning performance on HBO's The Normal Heart, and of course from the Magic Mike films, and as Lady Gaga's main squeeze on Ryan Murphy's American Horror Story, Hotel. And he's recently made his eagerly awaited Broadway debut in the electrifying 50th anniversary production of Mark Crowley's groundbreaking play, The Boys in the Band. Please welcome Matt Bomer. Welcome to Broadway. How does it feel?
It's like a dream I still haven't woken up from, kind of. You know, it's something that I'd always aspired to from, since I can remember as an actor, and so getting to be a part of it, especially with this group and this play, has really been a dream come true on many, many levels. Yeah.
This is your Broadway debut also.
Yeah.
How magical was that night? I mean, we were all there. I mean, original cast members were there. I mean, what was that night like for you?
You mean the first preview or opening night?
Well,
because they're very different.
Because your debut would have been that first preview performance too.
Yeah.
So what was that first night like?
I burst into tears at curtain call. And it wasn't anything that it was completely involuntary, actually.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything that I was manufacturing, or I was like, I have to, it just, my body took over. I think anytime you're putting a play up in front of an audience and you don't know how they're going to respond to certain aspects of the play or certain moments that you've created, it's all so surprising. And to have the kind of reception we did, and to just get through it and have done it, I think was just overwhelming, and I was just so grateful, and also probably really relieved, and all the above.
How well did you know the play when you got the offer?
I didn't know the play at all.
Okay.
And I knew, a lot of my history of gay theater started with, Torch Song Trilogy and, Larry Kramer's plays, and sort of, then plays that dealt with the AIDS crisis, Angels in America. So I didn't know, I didn't know a lot about pre-Stonewall life. And so we did a reading, and we did a workshop, and that was a great chance to kind of dip our toes in the water and see how it felt, and also to learn about everything that was going on in 1968 pre-Stonewall, and this sort of fervor that was bubbling up in the community that was just about to blow up.
Yeah. What was it like getting to know playwright Mark Crowley? I mean,
he's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's a relationship that continues to grow and evolve. I was just speaking with him yesterday. I love him. I think it's such a great moment for him, and it seems to have been to enliven him in a great way, and he's just so excited to finally have his play be on Broadway after all this time, and it's just a wonderful moment to get to share in with him, and his collaboration and support have always been so intelligent and thoughtful and positive.
Because, like you said, this is his Broadway debut after
his
writing
Broadway
this
debut.
play.
The play's 50 years old, and
Yeah.
it's finally getting a shot on Broadway.
Let's talk about what kind of insight did he give you? Was there something specifically about Donald, or just like a favorite story or something he gave you?
I think a lot of it he put in the hands of Joe Mantello.
Yeah.
Which is a good person to put your play in the hands of.
Sure.
I mean, it was such an incredible safety net to have Joe at the helm, and I think the cutting of the play that he put together, and the guidance and the shape and structure that he gave us were just invaluable on many, many levels. And I think that Mark was very tasteful and sort of letting his notes come through Joe. So we never really had a sense of whether or not it was a note from Joe or a note from Mark.
Yeah.
It was all one holistic endeavor.
Well, let's talk about Joe Mantello. Joe Mantello is one of the greatest directors, one of the most sought-after directors. What's it like working with him? First, in the rehearsal room?
Well, I think Joe is also one of the greatest actors on the planet, and I do think he's the best director working on stage today. I don't know if any of you saw Three Tall Women, but I could have gone.
Oh, yeah.
I saw it twice, and I could have gone and seen that every week. I mean, it was just phenomenal. You know, his notes are so good that I would actually write down other people's notes. That's how good his notes are. They're so insightful into the human condition. They're so universal. I was like, ooh, I could use that in my life. Like, I have a journal of everyone else's notes on top of mine. I had to like color code them. You know, he's wonderful. He's a real master of the medium, and it's like working with Soderbergh in film. You know, he lets the sculpture reveal itself, and even though he's done an extensive amount of research and thought into the themes and the piece and the world of the play, he's also willing to not know the answers to every question and to find those answers in rehearsal, so that the sculpture happens as you're going. It's not something that you know exactly how you want to chip out. It's sort of just happening organically as you're going, and then all of a sudden it's there.
Yeah. Yeah, because you put this great company of actors in a room, and you want to see it turn into something.
Yeah.
And what you all bring to it.
And he's not heavy-handed or capricious. He was extraordinarily patient and gracious, and you know, as a director, you know, you learn how to talk to actors yourself. And he just has such a way of phrasing notes and giving them to you in a way that makes you feel like you're in ownership of the note, as opposed to just some kind of didactic, really extreme, severe, austere, astringent command. You know.
I love that.
Is that too many adjectives? Sorry. I've been reading a lot lately. I play Donald.
But it must also be great because he was an actor and is an actor.
Yeah.
So he approaches it all from, I'm sure that's how he goes into it.
You know, everyone compares him to Mike Nichols, who I mean, obviously I would have dreamed of working with him. And to me, I think he's like a mix of like Mike Nichols and Kazan. Yeah. Because he also knows how to get into your psychology and to, you know, take an actor aside and whisper a little something to them and then take another. You know, it's all one really big psychological morass that then comes to play on stage. Yeah. Yeah.
I love the character of Donald. How many of you have seen The Boys in the Band already?
Oh my gosh, thank you. The rest of you need to come immediately.
Totally.
Free tickets at the door when you leave.
When you leave, that's your going away prize today. I love the role of Donald because Donald is also an observer.
Yeah.
So when you were working on him, what was it like? Like, how did you get into Donald?
Well, you know, this play presents a lot of incredible opportunistic challenges for an actor because there are no scene breaks, especially for Donald and Michael. You're on stage the entire play. So I think there are maybe 10 seconds without me at the top and then 10 seconds without Michael at the end. So much of it is about knowing what your relationships are to the other characters and what happened the last time you saw each other and who they are to you now and who they become to you over the evening, and letting that play out over the course of an hour and 45 minutes on stage every night and not locking into anything too severely. And but I think, you know, obviously I had to work on somebody who, a lot of it is, he was symptomatic of the times. He was somebody who was able-bodied by every stretch of the imagination. He should be a success on paper, yet he perceives himself as a failure because of how society views homosexuals, what his analyst is telling him, what he's experiencing with his family. And so here he is, this perfectly capable, able person who's now dropped out of Cornell, left his job, sequestered himself off to the Hamptons where he's cleaning houses for his father. And yet here he is at this party because he'll take the love and affection anywhere he can get it, no matter how toxic and dangerous it might be. But it's a great role because I really do get to watch and experience everyone's performance every night, and it's never the same every night. And some people, you know, see him as a real enigma, and then some people see him as someone who they watch the play through his eyes. Yeah. And a lot of the artists that I've loved and respected over the years have really, thankfully, gotten what Joe and I were trying to do with the character, which is to try to kind of witness a little bit of the party through this guy who shouldn't be there for all intents and purposes. He should be off working at a great job and be a success in life, and circumstantially he can't be, and yet he's also still so loyal to Michael, and sort of as everything's falling apart, he's really the only one who's there for him through thick and thin.
because we've seen the show a few times. My husband and I love to watch, you have too. I love to watch it through your eyes because Donald takes all this stuff in. It's like he's watching everybody living, watching how other people live their lives and everything else.
I think that's what he's trying to do, is find a way to live.
Yeah.
You know, and this room is filled with so many different archetypes within the community, and it's like, oh, this couple is still bickering and having trouble with you know, fidelity and how to do that, and monogamy. So what's that about? And then what's it like to be Michael, who just sort of plows his way through life? And then what's it like to be Harold, who owns his authenticity but is also still pretty caustic? And then what's it like to be Bernard? And you know, this play opened a couple weeks after MLK was assassinated. And then you have this African American character who's finding his own voice and his own struggle, and Emery, Robin's character, who's you know, so authentic but still also having to deal with all that brings you in terms of the cost to society. And then you have Alan, who, for all intents and purposes, based on the analysis Donald's going through, has won. He's won the game. He's married, he has kids, he's a lawyer, he has a great job, and he's just as miserable as everybody else. And he's staying there. And why is he staying there? So there's a lot for him to wrap his head around over the course of the evening.
Yeah. You know, this 50th anniversary production is flawless in every way. The cast is the perfect ensemble, and you are all working at the top of your game.
All that for $20.
See?
Can you believe it?
What is it like sharing the stage with, you all know who's, I mean, Zachary, tell the people who are you're sharing the stage with, I mean, this cast.
Zachary Quinto, whom I've known for 22 years.
Okay.
We went to college together at Carnegie Mellon. Jim Parsons, who I've known for years, who's phenomenal. They're all phenomenal. I'll just preface by saying that. Michael Benjamin Washington, who I've known since 2001. Andrew Reynolds, I've known since 2003. Brian Hutchison, Robin DeJesus. Who am I forgetting? I said Andrew Reynolds, Tuck Watkins, who's phenomenal and incredible as Hank. Did I get everybody? Yeah. Yeah, they're all, who? Oh, and Charlie Carver, who's phenomenal as the cowboy. Thank you for your assistance. Appreciate that. I have to go through the play sequentially to get through everybody.
Find everybody.
No, it's an incredible group, and normally I've always been, you know, typically the only out gay actor at any workplace I've been in. So to get to share the stage with these other guys who've had so many similar experiences, and we have such a great shorthand together, but more importantly than anybody's identity, everybody's just there for the right reasons to really explore the story and tell it as truthfully as possible every night, and to dig in and just do the best work we can. And it's, you know, it's a unique experience to have a show where you're all on stage basically the whole time, because it's talk about a trust fall. I mean, you have to be there for each other every moment of the show. You are one integrated being, and if somebody drops the ball, somebody else has to pick it up, and so it's been a really, really unforgettable experience.
And the audience is electrifying when you sit in the booth theater before it even starts. I mean, you must hear that just.
You know, every audience is so different. Truly, sometimes I think, oh my gosh, that's the most mordant audience we've had so far. But then they're the first to rise to their feet, and they're still clapping by the time the house lights go up. So you can't really base it on what people are laughing at or responding to, because a lot of the material is really shocking and new to some people. So they don't know how to respond, and sometimes they respond by laughing to relieve pressure, and sometimes they're just quiet and taking it back. And then sometimes they are leaned back in their chair going, what you got? And for them, they get option A. Kidding.
I want to go back to the beginning. Growing up, where did your love for performing begin, and what were your earliest creative outlets?
Well, I was an outside kid with a really wild imagination. And I lived, from 0 to 9, I lived in the greater St. Louis area, in this neighborhood that at the time, I didn't know this, it had been written up by Time magazine as one of the best places to raise children. There was a creek next to me and a sled hill and no fences, and you just run around with your dogs, and I could just be in my own little imaginary world all day long. I didn't really know how to give voice to that in any kind of public forum until I was in 6th grade. You're allowed to take an elective at credit due to in a Texas public school. They had a theater arts elective, and I had this wonderful woman, Marla Crow, who saw my active imagination and gave voice to all these characters I created in my head and taught me acting through improvisation. I mean, it wasn't like Viola Spolin or anything. It was like, you're both trapped in an elevator, go! It was very kind of Groundlings-esque. But I loved it. I loved it. And so she kind of got me into forensics, and I started doing well with that. And then I started doing plays in high school. I didn't do the forensics as much in high school because I wanted to I knew I was maybe going to get to go to conservatory, and so I didn't want to have that life in high school. Yeah. I wanted to live a little bit more, and so outside of just those parameters. And so I played sports and did student council and did other things, but I would do the plays. And we had this incredible teacher at the time who was only around for my freshman year, but he had us doing scenes from Angels in America and The Destiny of Me and Torch Song Trilogy and I mean all these incredible Lips Together, Teeth Apart, like, all these incredible plays when I was like 14. I was like, I gotta go to my church youth group tonight, but first I gotta get my Destiny of Me rehearsal in. You know, it was a really weird, I mean, for public consumption, we were doing, you know, Hamlet and The Little Foxes, but behind closed doors, we were doing the toast of off-Broadway. It was like Lonely Planet and, you know, all this kind of, but it exposed me to a lot of really amazing work really early on.
Was this the Klein High School?
Yeah, Klein High School.
And did you go with Lee Pace?
I did, yeah.
Okay,
I did many productions with Lee Pace in high school.
Because Lee Pace was here a few weeks ago.
No way!
Oh, yeah,
I love him.
Yeah, we do too.
We're supposed to see each other tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, I've tried to see him every week since I've been here because what are the odds that we'll both be on Broadway and
Isn't that crazy?
and sort of seminal gay plays at the same time?
But you've got a high school together.
Yeah.
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 So did you do plays together in high school?
Yeah, many.
All right.
We did The Diary of Anne Frank. We did Wild Honey, which is a Michael Frayn adaptation of Platonov, which is one of the Chekhov 5 actors. We did, what else did we do? Oliver. We did South Pacific. We did Crazy for You.
Also, there's musicals in there.
The whole works!
So, but did your...
Gershwin, Rodgers and Hammerstein, everything.
We're getting you to Broadway in a musical. It's going to happen.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Talk about the Alley Theater. That was life-changing for you, wasn't it?
It was. One of the contacts that this teacher had made before he left was this woman named Annalee Jeffries, who was in the rep company at the Alley. And it to this day is one of the most phenomenal actors I've ever witnessed on stage. And she was playing Blanche in Streetcar Named Desire. And before that, she was teaching an Anne Bogart workshop on viewpoints and ensemble. So that was really my introduction to like a first proper acting class was through Anne Bogart's, who I don't know if you know who Anne Bogart is, but she basically, she's still at Columbia? I think she's on faculty at Columbia Grad School, but she teaches acting through ensemble and how to be a part of a whole on stage and these things called viewpoints. And so everything was about a team effort. And so I did that with her, and then she got me an audition, and I was cast in A Streetcar Named Desire with her at the Alley that Michael Wilson directed.
You played the young collector, right?
I was the understudy for the young collector. They had, the University of Houston grad program had like a feed-in program for casting at the Alley. So it was like a 30-year-old guy played the young collector, and I, who was actually 17, was the understudy, but he was phenomenal on getting to watch him work every night. And then Michael had a New Orleans ensemble. So we would do, in the interstitials, entre scene, we would do little bits of like, you know, The Lady of Larkspur Lotion, or one of his short plays in between that created part of that New Orleans life while there was a mise-en-scene and while they were changing the scenery around. Yeah.
So you knew Tennessee Williams from a very early age.
He was the first professional playwright I worked on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. You trained at Carnegie Mellon.
That's a weird thing to say. He was the first playwright I got to work on professionally. See, I'm already like Donald. I'm correcting my own grammar.
Fabulous. You trained at Carnegie Mellon. Was your Magic Mike co-star, Joe
He was in my class.
Was he in your class?
Yeah.
So what was that like?
Great. Wonderful. I mean, you know, amazing. You know, it's a very small class, and they back then they had a really stringent cut program. So, you know, we started out with 20, and I think we ended up with 9. So these people were like your family, you know. I mean, you knew each other inside and out, and you'd seen each other fail phenomenally on stage and succeed phenomenally on stage and have their greatest triumphs and their worst disasters. So I can't imagine anybody who I would have felt better being in a Speedo on stage with than him, because he'd seen me at my best and my worst.
What did you take away from those years at Carnegie Mellon? Because it was very cutthroat, like you said. You wheedled down to the real business, right?
Yeah, I think you found out really fast if you were cut out for the business, because you were working. I mean, my sophomore year, I'd be doing a scene from Moliere, a scene from Shaw, a Pinter scene, a Shakespearean monologue, and building sets for the seniors while doing another play, you know, the Scottish play in class. So you're really, I mean, you're just soaking it all in, and you're getting to work on the best plays and the best roles that you may never get to work on again. And this safe nest with a faculty that's there to support you and help you challenge yourself in the right way and find ultimately where you need, what your entry point into the business should be.
Yeah. So when you came to New York, you started working in soap operas, didn't you?
I started in theater, actually, and I did the first workshop of Spring Awakening, and then from that I was first cast in Thoroughly Modern Millie. Sutton Foster and I were the understudies at La Jolla. And it was like right when I was getting to New York, and I needed to find a place to live, and my roommate was like, wait, you're gonna go to La Jolla so I had to pass on that job so I could kind of get my feet under me here in New York. But because of Spring Awakening, Michael let me audition for it again when Sutton had become Sutton. And I was Gavin Creel and Mark Kudish's cover in that.
I love that.
But we were waiting, 9/11 happened, and we were waiting for months and months and months to get a house, and I had to pay my bills because I lost my day job because no one was coming to New York at the time. And so I did a soap for a year.
The Guiding Light?
The Guiding Light.
Well, you are known to millions of fans around the world for your breakout role of Neil Caffrey on the hit USA series White Collar fans, which ran for 6 seasons.
Yeah.
You must have so many incredible memories. What are some of your favorites?
That group of people. It was just the most wonderful cast, and no one was ever late, no one ever stormed off set, there were never any arguments, it was always a best idea wins scenario. Every day was fun and exciting and joyful, and we really were a family, and you know, what we got to do on that show was just so fun. It was so fun. It never took itself too seriously, but it did have heavier dramatic moments, and it also had really light moments, and a lot of great stunt work we got to do, and then at the end, you know, it was nice to I got to have a little bit of a hand in how things would wrap up on the show, and that's one of the proudest things I got to be a part of on that show, because I feel like people I don't know how you feel or not, but a lot of the response I get from people on the street is that they were happy with how the show wound down, and that it left room for more, but also closed a lot of doors, but also opened some, and so that was important to me, and I'm really grateful to our creator and USA Network that I got to weigh in there.
Yeah. You won numerous awards, including the Golden Globe and the Critics' Choice Award for your heart-wrenching performance of closeted New York Times writer Felix Turner in HBO's film of Larry Kramer's groundbreaking play, masterpiece, The Normal Heart. Normal Heart fans here. That was such an incredible thing to watch on television, to watch your transformation, to watch what you did with that. The ensemble cast you worked with, of course, led by Mark Ruffalo and you and everybody else. What are your fondest memories of that? That was a personal thing you really wanted to do, didn't you? Because you read one of those plays
oh
early
my
on.
gosh, yeah. I
play.
mean, yeah, I feel like I owed my life to Larry Kramer and was willing to get close to sacrificing it for him.
Yeah.
And just coming of age and starting to work professionally in the theater, you know, pre-AZT and all that was, so you know, a lot of my early experiences had been surrounded by that plague, and so I felt such an onus and a responsibility to commit to that with every fiber of my being. You know, not in a sensational look at me way, but in a really just in service to the material way, which you try to do with every role. But this had a lot of deeper meaning for me in many levels. But it's hard. It was such an experiential thing. I think. I love that Mark was just so game as an actor and brought so much. I mean, his Larry Kramer is pretty phenomenal. It's like kind of uncanny. But just getting to work with him, and we really stayed in character in between scenes and how we related to each other, and we would just have little conversations about our life or what was going on in character between scenes, so that because you have such little time together on a movie, you have to really just jump in, and we wanted it to feel lived in and real. And so it was just kind of a magical time. I mean, I think the real win is to get to do that show 8 times a week, you know? But to get to put it on film and to have Ryan and HBO be so collaborative and letting them shut down for me to lose 40 pounds and do all that stuff was just, you know, I don't think we could have done it anywhere else. Because when I first signed on, it was a movie. Yeah. It was a movie, and I remember getting the phone call from Ryan about a year, maybe a year and a half before we started, that it was going to be at HBO, and I thought, oh, thank God, because they'll market it. They'll know how to get this out there, and more eyes will get to see this story. Then, you know, you never know with a movie. It could just, the wrong distributor could get it, and then it could just come and go. Sure. You know.
My final question is, what is the best bit of advice that you've been given, either personally or professionally, that you live by?
Oh, dear. It's the best piece of advice I've been given, either personally or professionally. Well, it's changed as my career has changed. Like, I think the fact that Jody told me to take any job that came my way was really great advice. It was really good counsel. Not that I had a choice at the time, by the way. I think it's the fact that Milton Katselas, who ran the Beverly Hills Playhouse for years, and he had directed some stage work here and some films. It's the fact that acting is talent and commitment and dedication, but there is also an administrative aspect to it. And I had always been such a creative, you know, in outer space soul, and you have to understand that this is a business as well, if you want it to be. You know, if you can afford to just kind of float around and see where that takes you, God, I'm so jealous of you, and good for you. But, you know, you have a group of people who are working with you who in all likelihood have 20 to 50 other people they're working with, and you have to figure out how to be administrative about who you are, where you belong in the business, what opportunities you need and deserve and should be getting, and how to keep them all accountable and working for you. And so, and working for yourself and knowing where you fit into the business. I think that's a tough thing to have to face for a creative person, but I think it's part of ourselves as artists that we have to embrace in order to find our niche in the business.
Thank you for that. You know, this has been a dream of mine to sit with you here in this chair. I thank you so much for taking out the time. If you haven't seen him, you need to see him in The Boys in the Band. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Bomer.
Thank you so much. Thank you.